The sun rose slowly over the small town, painting the sky with soft orange light.
I am the
And as the
biggest
morning
hero.
began, the market started to come alive with noise and color. Sellers shouted about their vegetables, buyers argued about prices, and laughter echoed between the stalls. But in the middle of all this noise walked a woman so quiet that most people barely noticed her. Her name was Mira. Mira was known as the simple woman, the one who always wore the same faded clothes, carried the same old bag, and never said much to anyone. She sold small things like handmade scarves and old buttons, and she smiled at people even when they ignored her. She had kind eyes, gentle hands, and a calm way of moving that made her look like someone from another time. But the people of the market were not kind to her. Many laughed behind her back, whispering things like, "Look at her skirt, it is so old," or "She must be crazy living alone like that." Some even called her the rag lady, and though Mira heard their cruel words, she never said anything in return. She just kept walking with quiet dignity. Holding her bag close to her chest one morning, something happened that made everyone stop and stare. As Mira bent down to arrange her things, a small golden locket slipped from her bag and rolled onto the dusty ground. The sunlight hit it, and it shone so bright that even the fruit seller across the street saw it. People gasped, wondering how a poor woman like her could own something so beautiful. Some whispered that she must have stolen it. Others said it was fake, but Mira simply picked it up, brushed off the dust, and placed it gently back into her bag, her face calm as ever. That quiet moment made the market buzz with gossip. "Who is she really?" someone asked. "Maybe she used to be rich," another guessed. "Or maybe she's hiding something." And as the voices grew louder, a group of young women nearby began to laugh. Among them was Tina, the daughter of a wealthy shop owner. She was used to being admired. Her clothes were fine, her jewelry sparkled, and her friends followed her every move like shadows. Tina smirked as she watched Mira walk away, her voice full of mockery as she said, "What a strange woman." Pretending to be poor but carrying gold in her bag, her friends giggled, nodding eagerly. One of them whispered, "Let's follow her. Maybe she hides more treasure at home." And so they decided to follow Mira without her knowing. The road out of the market was quiet and long, lined with tall trees that whispered in the wind. Mira walked slowly, her steps light and steady. She did not seem to notice the girls behind her. She stopped once to help an old man pick up some fallen apples, and then continued toward a small path that led into the edge of the forest. The girls exchanged looks, whispering nervously but also excitedly. "What if she's a witch?" one said. Another giggled. "Or what if she lives in a haunted house?" They laughed again, trying to sound brave after a while. They reached a tiny wooden house surrounded by wildflowers. It looked peaceful but lonely. The roof was old. The walls were faded, yet the place had a strange beauty. Mira went inside and the girls hid behind a tree. Peeking through the gaps, they saw her come out again with a bucket of water, humming a soft song that no one recognized. Her voice was gentle and full of sadness. Even Tina felt a strange feeling in her chest but quickly pushed it away. "Let's talk to her," Tina whispered. "Maybe we can have some fun." Her friends nodded, unsure but unwilling to say no. They walked toward Mira, pretending to smile. "Hello, Auntie," Tina said sweetly. "Can we help you with anything?" Mira turned and smiled softly, her voice calm as she said, "No, my child, thank you, I am fine," but the girls did not leave. Instead, they looked around and began making quiet jokes about her house and her clothes. Tina picked up one of the scarves hanging on the line, saying, "These look so old, who would buy them?" Another girl added, "Maybe ghosts," and they burst out laughing. Mira only stood there silent. Her eyes filled with patience and kindness, she said, "God bless you, children." The words were soft but full of meaning. Yet the girls only laughed louder. One of them said, "Come on, Tina, let's go before she curses us." But Tina, wanting to show off, walked closer and tugged gently at Mira's skirt, saying, "Maybe we should buy her a new one." Everyone laughed again. Except Mira. For a moment, the air grew still. Mira looked down at her torn skirt, then up at the laughing faces around her, and her eyes changed. They were no longer soft. They were full of deep sadness, something old and painful, something that made the laughter slowly fade. One by one, the girls stopped giggling. Feeling a strange chill inside, Mira said nothing. She only picked up the scarf that had fallen to the ground, shook off the dust, and went back inside her house. Her back straight, her movements graceful, as if nothing had happened. The girls stood there, silent for the first time. None of them could explain why they felt guilty. Tina tried to laugh again, but her voice trembled. "Let's go," she said, but even as they walked away, she kept looking back at the small wooden house, her heart beating faster, because for some reason she couldn't understand. The image of that simple woman's sad eyes would not leave her mind. And deep inside, though she didn't know it yet, that one cruel act would soon come back to her in a way she could never imagine. The night after that strange moment, Tina could not sleep. She kept turning in bed, thinking about the woman she had laughed at. The image of Mira's sad eyes would not leave her mind. It was like those eyes were looking straight into her heart, full of quiet pain and something she could not explain. She tried to tell herself it was nothing, that Mira was just a poor woman with no power, but deep inside, something about that silence had scared her. The next morning, the market was alive again, the same noise, the same laughter. But when Mira walked in with her old basket, some people still whispered, "There she is, the rag lady. She never changes." Others just ignored her, pretending not to see her. But a few now watched her with curious eyes, remembering how calm she had been even when mocked. It made them wonder who she really was. Tina was there too, walking proudly with her friends, wearing a new red dress, her bracelets jingling as she walked. Her eyes found Mira again, and for a second she hesitated. Something in her wanted to look away, but her friends were beside her and she didn't want to look weak. So she smirked and said, "Look who's here again, our little queen of rags." Her friends laughed loudly. One of them said, "Maybe she came to sell her broken scarves again." Another added, "Or maybe her golden treasure." They laughed until people turned to look. Mira kept arranging her things on the small cloth in front of her. She smiled politely and said, "Good morning, children. May God give you joy." Her voice was so calm that it made Tina angry for no reason. She wanted a reaction, something dramatic. But Mira refused to play along. That made the girls even bolder. They surrounded her small stall, touching her scarves, pretending to buy but only mocking. One girl said, "These are so rough, do you even know how to sew?" Mira replied softly, "I do my best, my dear. Every thread is made with love." But they only giggled louder as the crowd started to notice. More people gathered, curious to see what was happening. Some whispered, "This is cruel." Others said, "Maybe she deserves it." No one did anything to stop it. Tina felt the attention and smiled proudly. She thought she looked strong and clever. She picked up one of the scarves and said, "Tell us, old woman, where did you get your golden locket? Did you steal it?" Mira looked up slowly, her eyes gentle. She said, "It was a gift, a very precious gift from someone I love." Tina rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, really? Maybe from a ghost." Her friends burst into laughter again. Mira bent down to pick up a scarf that had fallen, but as she did, Tina reached out and pulled gently at her skirt again, saying, "Oh, don't be shy. Maybe your secret treasure is hiding under there." The market went silent for a second. The laughter stopped. Everyone stared as Mira froze. Her hands trembling slightly, she stood up slowly, her face pale, her eyes glistening with tears that she tried to hold back. She said in a low voice, "Child, what you are doing will one day return to you. Every action finds its way home." But her voice was calm, not angry, and that calmness made Tina feel a strange fear inside. Her friends didn't know what to say. One whispered, "Tina, maybe we should stop. This is going too far." But Tina forced a laugh and said, "Oh, come on, it's just fun." She wanted to sound confident, but her voice cracked slightly. Mira turned away. Gathering her things with quiet hands, the crowd slowly began to walk away. Some shaking their heads. One old man muttered, "Shame on these young people." But no one said it loudly enough for Tina to hear clearly. When Mira finished packing, she lifted her bag and looked at the girls one last time. Her eyes were calm but full of something powerful. She said softly, "May life teach you kindness." And then she walked away slowly through the market lane, her steps steady, her head held high. The crowd parted silently as she passed. No one dared to laugh anymore. Even the wind seemed to quiet down as she disappeared into the sunlight beyond the stalls. Tina stood frozen, her heart beating too fast, her fingers still clutching the edge of the scarf she had pulled. She suddenly felt it heavy in her hand, heavier than gold, heavier than guilt. Her friends were quiet too. None of them were laughing now. One of them whispered again, "I told you this wasn't right." Tina threw the scarf back on the table and turned away, saying quickly, "Let's just go." But her steps were shaky, and her throat felt dry, as if she had swallowed a stone that night. As the moon rose high above the silent town, Tina walked alone to her balcony, looking at the stars. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Mira's face, the calm eyes, the trembling hands, the quiet words. She remembered them over and over. "May life teach you kindness." They echoed in her mind like a whisper from far away. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel proud or beautiful. She felt small, she felt wrong. She felt afraid of something she could not name down the road inside her small wooden house. Mira sat by the window holding the golden locket close to her heart. She opened it slowly and looked at the two tiny pictures inside, one of a smiling young man in uniform and one of a little boy holding her hand. She whispered softly, "Good night, my loves, I miss you both." Then she closed her eyes and prayed quietly, the candle light flickering across her face, her tears shining like glass and far away in the dark. Tina felt those same tears in her heart, though she did not yet know why. The next morning came with soft rain falling over the quiet town. The market was almost empty, and the smell of wet soil filled the air. Mira did not come that day. Her small spot near the fruit stall remained empty, and people noticed her absence more than they expected. Even Tina noticed, though she told herself she didn't care. She tried to laugh and chat with her friends as usual, but her heart was heavy. Every time she passed that empty space, she felt something tight inside her chest. She kept hearing Mira's calm voice in her mind. "May life teach you kindness?" Those words echoed again and again until she could not ignore them anymore. That night she sat alone in her room, looking out at the rain. Her friends had stopped visiting since the incident. They had grown quiet too. Maybe they felt the same shame she did, but none of them wanted to speak about it. So the silence between them grew wider each day, as the days passed. The guilt in Tina's heart turned into curiosity. She wanted to know who Mira really was. She wanted to understand why a poor woman carried a golden locket, and why her eyes had looked so deep and full of stories. One morning, when the market was still waking up, Tina decided to follow the small path that led to Mira's house near the forest. She walked slowly, her shoes wet with dew, her mind filled with questions she could not answer. When she reached the little wooden house, she saw smoke rising gently from the chimney. She stood behind a tree, unsure if she should knock or leave. But then she saw Mira sitting outside near the doorway, holding something small in her hands. Her lips were moving softly as if she was speaking to someone unseen. Tina moved closer, hiding behind the bushes. And then she saw it, the golden locket resting in Mira's palms, shining faintly in the morning light. Mira opened the locket carefully and smiled, her eyes full of love and pain mixed together. She whispered, "My brave boy, my sweet child, I miss you both so much." Her voice cracked slightly, but she continued, "I know you are watching me from heaven, and that gives me strength to live another day." Tina's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to step forward, but her legs would not move. Her heart felt heavy as if 1,000 stones were pressing down on it. Mira kissed the locket gently and held it close to her chest. Then she looked up at the sky, her voice trembling. She said, "Today marks another year since you left for the war, my son. I still remember the day you promised to come back. I waited and waited, but the letter came instead. The letter that broke my heart." She wiped her tears with her hand and looked down again, her voice turning softer. "And you, my little one, my sweet child, I still see your smile in every dream. The fever took you so fast I couldn't even say goodbye. But I know you're safe with your father now." Tina covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. This woman she had mocked, this woman she had humiliated in front of everyone, had lost her husband and her child. Yet she still smiled, still spoke kindly to people, still blessed those who hurt her. Tina's chest burned with guilt. Her hands trembled as she leaned against the tree, trying not to make a sound. After a while, Mira stood up and walked toward a small wooden box placed on a table near the door. She opened it and took out a folded paper. Tina could barely see it, but she heard Mira whisper, "Your last letter, my son. Your words keep me alive. I will never forget them." She unfolded the paper and read quietly, her lips moving slowly. "Be strong, mother. Take care of yourself. I will come home soon. You are the bravest woman I know." Mira's tears fell onto the paper. She pressed it to her heart and closed her eyes. Tina could not stop her own tears now. They rolled down her cheeks silently. She wanted to run away, but something kept her rooted to the spot. She watched as Mira gently placed the letter and the locket back into the wooden box, then covered it with a piece of cloth. She lit a small candle beside it and whispered a prayer, her voice calm and full of peace. "Thank you, God, for giving me another day to remember them with love, not with anger. Let their souls rest and let my heart forgive the world that forgets kindness." When Mira went inside her house, Tina finally stepped out from behind the tree, her knees shaking. She looked at the small table and the candle still burning beside the box. She whispered softly, "I'm sorry," though no one could hear her. Her voice broke halfway through. She wiped her tears quickly and turned to leave. But just then a breeze passed through the trees, making the candle flicker. For a moment she felt like someone was watching her, not with anger but with forgiveness. On the way back home, Tina walked slowly, her head down. The sound of birds and the rustle of leaves felt different now. Everything seemed softer, quieter. She kept thinking about Mira's voice, about the locket, about the photo of the young soldier she had seen through the open window. She realized how little she knew about people, how quick she had been to judge without understanding their pain. When she reached her house, she sat on the steps and cried silently, her heart aching in a way it never had before that night. She couldn't sleep again, but this time it wasn't guilt alone. It was respect, it was sadness, it was something new. She whispered into the darkness, "I'll make it right, I promise." She didn't know how yet, but she felt she had to do something. Something that could bring peace to that quiet woman who had lost everything, yet still carried so much light inside her. And somewhere deep in her heart, Tina knew that the story of that golden locket was far from over. The sun rose bright and golden over the town. The market was busier than ever. Voices filled the air, but something felt different. People were talking excitedly about a new visitor. Someone important had come. A black car had been seen near the old road leading to the forest, and the driver had asked for directions to a woman named Mira. No one understood why, but curiosity spread like fire through the crowd. Tina was at her father's shop, folding clothes when she heard the whispers. Her heart skipped a beat as soon as she heard Mira's name. She ran outside pretending she needed air, but really she wanted to see what was happening. Her friends were already at the market entrance. One of them shouted, "Tina, come quick, there's a soldier asking for that woman." The one we teased. Tina froze for a second. Her hands shaking, she whispered to herself, "A soldier." Her mind went back to the locket, the picture of the man in uniform. Her heart began to pound faster down the main road. A tall man stepped out of the black car, wearing a neat uniform full of medals and badges. His face looked proud, but his eyes were tired. He carried a bouquet of white flowers in one hand and a small bag in the other. People moved aside as he walked. Some saluted him respectfully. Others whispered, "Who is he? Why is he looking for her?" The man stopped at a fruit stall and asked softly, "Excuse me, can you tell me where I can find Mira?" The seller pointed toward the forest path. The man nodded and thanked him with a kind smile, then continued walking. Tina followed from a distance, her breath quick and uneven. She didn't know why she felt so nervous. Maybe it was guilt, maybe fear, maybe something else she couldn't name. The road seemed longer than ever, every step echoing in her ears. When she finally reached the small house, the man was already there, standing near the doorway. Mira had come outside, holding her basket as always. When she saw him, the basket fell from her hands, her lips trembled, and her eyes filled with tears. For a long moment, no one spoke. The air was still, only the sound of birds filled the silence. Then Mira whispered in disbelief, "Arav, my son." The man dropped the flowers and ran to her, kneeling before her like a child, holding her hands tightly, his voice shaking. "Mother, it's me, I'm home." She touched his face as if to make sure he was real. Tears streaming down her cheeks, she whispered, "Thank you, God. Thank you for bringing him back to me." People who had followed the sound stood quietly at a distance, watching with wide eyes. Arav hugged her and said softly, "I wanted to come earlier, but I was sent on missions far away. I tried to write, but the letters never reached you. When I came to town and heard what happened, I couldn't wait another moment." Mira held his face in her hands and said, "I thought I lost you too. My heart has been living in pain for so long." He kissed her hands and said, "You gave me everything. Your strength kept me alive. I came home to take care of you now, to give you the peace you deserve." Tears fell from both their eyes, and the crowd behind them began to murmur. Realizing what they were seeing, Tina stood frozen behind the trees, unable to move. Her throat felt dry, her eyes burned. She watched the same woman she had mocked embrace a son who was a decorated hero. She could not believe it. Guilt hit her harder than ever before. She remembered how she had pulled that skirt, how she had laughed, how cruel she had been, and now she felt smaller than a grain of sand. The wind blew softly, carrying Mira's gentle voice as she said, "Come inside, my son. Let me cook for you. Let me hear your stories." They went inside together, but the people outside stayed, whispering in shock. Some said she raised a soldier alone. Others said she never told anyone. She lived so quietly all these years. A woman nearby wiped her tears and said, "And we laughed at her. We called her names. Shame on us." The whispers grew into silence again. No one dared to laugh anymore. Even the children who once teased her now looked down at the ground. After some time, Mira and Arav came out together. He stood beside her, tall and proud, and looked at the people gathered outside, his voice firm yet kind. He said, "My mother is the bravest person I know. She sold her jewelry, her belongings, and even skipped meals so I could study and serve this country. She faced loneliness, hunger, and humiliation, yet she never stopped believing in goodness." Everyone lowered their heads as he spoke, his voice filled with love and respect. Then he turned to the crowd and said, "I heard what some of you did to her, and I am not angry. But I want you to remember something. Kindness costs nothing, and cruelty always returns. I hope you all learn from this." His words hung in the air like truth itself. Mira touched his arm gently and said, "Let them be, my son. They did not know my story." He smiled at her softly, his eyes filled with admiration, and said, "That's why you are my greatest teacher." Mother Tina could not hold her tears anymore. She covered her face and ran away, her heart pounding, her mind screaming with guilt. She knew she could not hide from what she had done. She had to face her mistake. But she also knew that no apology could erase her cruelty. As she ran, she kept hearing Mira's voice again, "May life teach you kindness." And now she understood what it truly meant that evening. As the sun began to set, the market was quiet. People spoke softly of what they had seen, and in every heart a small seed of shame and respect was planted. The woman they had mocked was no longer the rag lady. She was the mother of a hero, the heart of the town. And as darkness fell, her small home glowed with candlelight, shining like hope itself at the edge of the forest. That night the whole town buzzed with whispers about Mira and her son, Captain Arav. Some people felt proud that a hero had come from their small town, but most of them felt shame remembering how they had treated the quiet woman, who had always walked through the market with a gentle smile and old clothes. Everyone who had mocked her now tried to avoid each other's eyes, and among them no one felt the weight heavier than Tina. She stayed awake the whole night, unable to stop crying. Her heart was filled with guilt. The memory of Mira's skirt in her hand burned her mind like fire. She kept seeing Mira's eyes, the sadness, the calm, and then the way she had looked at her son with love and pride. The contrast made Tina's soul ache. She whispered to herself again and again, "What have I done? What kind of person am I?" When morning came, the market was quiet. Not the usual noise or laughter, only whispers of what had happened yesterday. A few people brought flowers to Mira's stall, leaving them there as a silent apology. Mira had not come yet. She was at home cooking breakfast for Arav, who sat beside her listening to every word she spoke, his eyes full of warmth and admiration. Meanwhile, Tina dressed simply that day. No jewelry, no makeup. She carried a small basket of fresh bread and flowers, her hands shaking as she walked toward the path leading to Mira's house, the same path she had once taken with cruel intentions. Now, she walked slowly, her heart pounding her mind, rehearsing what she would say. "I am sorry, please forgive me." But every time she thought of Mira's calm face, her voice broke in her throat. When she reached the small wooden house, she saw smoke rising from the chimney. The smell of food and the sound of laughter filled the air. Arav was sitting outside cleaning his boots while Mira arranged plates on the small table under the tree. Tina stopped a few steps away, not sure how to begin. Arav looked up first, his eyes calm yet firm. He recognized her instantly from the market. He stood up slowly and said, "You are one of the girls, aren't you, the ones who hurt my mother?" Tina's knees went weak. She nodded, unable to speak, tears already running down her cheeks. She whispered, "I came to say, sorry, I didn't know, I was so stupid. I was cruel. I didn't understand." Mira came out of the house just then, holding a bowl of rice. She looked at Tina, and her face softened immediately. She said, "Come, child, don't stand there in the sun, sit down." Tina shook her head, saying, "I don't deserve that." Mira smiled gently and said, "No one deserves hate either. Come sit." Tina walked slowly and sat on the small wooden bench beside the tree. She placed the basket down and said, "I brought this for you. It's not much, just some bread and flowers." Mira touched the basket and nodded kindly. Thank you, my dear, you didn't have to, she said. Tina wiped her tears with the back of her hand and whispered, I have to. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I feel terrible for what I did. Mira sat beside her quietly for a moment, then said softly, sometimes we hurt others because we have never felt real pain. When life teaches us pain, we start to see the hearts of others more clearly. Arav listened silently, his eyes thoughtful. Mira continued, her voice calm. I don't hate you, child. I prayed for you that night, not because you hurt me, but because I wanted you to learn what kindness truly means. You see, forgiveness is not weakness. Forgiveness is freedom. Tina looked at her in disbelief. She asked, how can you forgive me after what I did? Mira smiled faintly and said, because anger only breaks the soul. I have lost enough already. I cannot lose peace too. Tina broke down crying. She knelt beside Mira and held her hands tightly, saying, I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I will try to become better. I promise I will never laugh at anyone again. I will help people. I will change. Mira stroked her hair gently and said, that is all I ask, my dear. When you carry kindness in your heart, the world will change around you. Arav placed a hand on Tina's shoulder and said, my mother has always believed in light even when the world gave her darkness. That is her strength. Learn from it. The wind blew softly through the trees. The smell of flowers filled the air. Tina stayed there for a long time, talking with Mira, listening to her stories about her husband and son, and the struggles she had faced alone. Every word touched Tina's heart, deeper than she thought possible. When she finally stood to leave, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange. Mira handed her a small handmade scarf, saying, take this. It's not perfect, but it's made with love. Tina held it close to her chest, her eyes full of tears again. As she walked back through the market, the people watched her curiously. She stopped at Mira's stall, the one that had once been empty, and arranged the flowers she brought earlier neatly around it. She whispered to herself, from now on, I will protect her, not hurt her. And in that moment, for the first time in her life, Tina felt peace. That night, Mira sat by her window again, holding her golden locket and smiling. She whispered, thank you, God, for showing kindness to the hearts that once knew cruelty. And far away in her room, Tina looked up at the same moon, whispering her own prayer of gratitude. Two hearts healed quietly under the same gentle light of forgiveness. The next morning, the market was alive again, but something felt different. The air carried a softness that had not been there before. People spoke in quieter tones, smiled more, and looked around as if seeing each other for the first time in years. Mira's stall stood in its usual corner, but now it was surrounded by fresh flowers, candles and scarves hanging like bright flags of hope. People stopped to greet her respectfully. Some bowed slightly. Others simply smiled. Mira greeted everyone with warmth, her eyes shining like morning sunlight. Tina arrived early that day, carrying a small box filled with coins she had saved. She placed it gently beside Mira's table and said softly, these are for you so you can buy more cloth to make scarves. Mira looked at her kindly, shaking her head, and said, keep it, child. Use it to help others who need it more. I have enough. Tina smiled shyly and said, then, I will do that from now on. I will help people and remember your words always. Mira touched her cheek gently and said, that is the best gift you could give me. As the morning went on, more people gathered around to hear Mira speak. They asked her about her son, Captain Arav, and she told them stories about his bravery, how he saved lives during floods, how he shared his food with strangers, how he always wrote letters full of hope. She spoke with pride but never with arrogance. She said he is a good man because he learned to see every person as equal. That is what his father taught him before he went to the war and never returned. The crowd listened quietly, some with tears in their eyes. Arav stood nearby smiling as he watched his mother. The townspeople greeted him with respect, but he always pointed to Mira and said, the real hero is her, not me. She fought her battles alone every single day and never gave up. Those words spread quickly through the town and reached even the ones who had once mocked Mira. Soon people began visiting her, not out of pity but out of love. They asked for her advice when they were sad. They brought her food when she needed